Good evening. Welcome to the Gemara Shir from Amles B'Shemesh here on Torah Anytime on YouTube. Bezos Hashem. Masechet Shabbos Daf Kuf Lamed Tes Omud Beis. Kuf Lamed Tes Omud Beis is where we are, and we are learning about um, we're learning about sifting, filtering water, wine, b'chule on Shabbos. Okay. And one of the issues is the fact that when you place a meshameres, in other words, when you place a sieve on or a sifter on top of the barrel in which you want to basically sift the wine through, there's another problem of uvda dechol. In other words, if you basically put something that's too strong, too big, too good, too professional, too permanent, such as the good sieve, and you don't just place it, you stick it well. Yeah, you stick it the right way and you spread it all over, there's a problem of uvda dechol. Okay. However, this problem can be overcome. We shall overcome. Amar Baravuna, or some say it was, Rabbi Baravuna. Marim odom al mashmers b'yom tov, litlos barimoinim, v'toil b'shmorim, which means it's Yom Tov. In Yom Tov, you're not supposed to place a meshameres on the barrel, right? You can do haroma. You can kivyochol play a trick. What can you do? Say that you're placing the meshameres, that surface, that net surface on the barrel. You are doing this just in order to put that. You need it as a surface. You need your rimoinim. You need to put your pomegranates or anything else to put it there. And if you're doing it just for the rimonim, that's not called uvda dechol. Uvda dechol is preparing something for work, to work with. If I'm using that business, that meshameres, and I'm placing it very nicely, just in order, not for melocho, stam for placing an object, that's okay. So what do? You're allowed to say to everybody, I am now putting this for rimonim. And really, once the meshameres is already placed nicely on top of the barrel, you can just put rimonim over there. And no, according to this opinion, no, you don't have to put rimonim. What can you do next? Put the shmorim, then you're allowed to put the sediments. The sediments will, with the wine inside, will trickle down, because we said that on Yom Tov you are allowed to do borer. On Yom Tov, in most cases, on Yom Tov, if you already have a mishameres, you're allowed to use an existing mishameres and put the shmorim, the sediments, through. So that would be a good idea. Amar Ravashi now makes a huge disclaimer on that. Ravashi is limiting that din big time. He says, which means it's not enough to just say, everybody, wife and kids, everybody, this is for rimonim. You really have to first place rimonim, locate some rimonim over there, some pomegranates, or it could be apples or bananas, whatever. Put your fruit over there, use it as regular kitchen surface. Mazel tov, good, nice. Now we know that at least the first usage of that net, of that sieve, was really for rimonim. So now it doesn't look so much aroma. You really used it for the rimonim. After that, at some point later, you can remove the rimonim and use it for the real thing on Yom Tov, and that is to filter and sieve through. Okay? In other words, aroma should not be too much in your face. Aroma should be even more, delicate, more indirect. Okay. The Gemara is now going to ask a question on Rav Ashi. Why is that different? Rav Ashi, who doesn't seem to like aroma so much, right? In other words, you have to some kind prove to everybody, Rashi says, muchach milsa, you have to show everybody that it's really for the mutter purpose, then you can use it for the osir purpose. I'll challenge you. The Tanya says in the Gemara in Moed Koton, Daf I think you'd base, Metilin sheichar b'moyed letzorach hamoyed. We all know you can't do malacha, definitely not industrial malacha, on Chol Hamoyed, just for the sake of after Chol Hamoyed. You're allowed to be metil sheichar, whichever malacha is involved, I don't know. You're allowed to make a brew. You're allowed to brew your brew. You want to make whiskey, beer. I assume this is not on Pesach. It's Sukkot and Chol Hamoyed. And that's what you want to do. You're allowed to do that on Chol Hamoyed for the need of the Moyed. for tzoy chamoyed, you're allowed to do malacha, generally speaking, with other conditions. Also, but if you are now using your free time, you got some days off from work and chalamoid, it's very tempting. Let's make a whole batch of brew of whiskey for the whole winter to have a nice l'chaim. Now, you're not allowed to do that. You can't abuse the time of chalamoid to use, in order to do all kinds of, big malachas for after chalamoid. So far, so good. Echad shachar tamarim, echad shechasarim. I don't know what the chiddush is. But whether it's from dates or from seorim, from barley, it's also. Now there is a ray of light in the darkness. Marim which means there is a way in which you could do, if you really want, the rabbis are whispering in your ear, there is a way to make shechar on Chol HaMoed or later on in the winter. How come? Let's say you have old shechar. You already have your enough whiskey for an entire bar, but you already have that in another room. You already have yoshin. You have at home. It's now Chol HaMoed Sukkos. You don't really need any shechar for right now for Sukkot. You have shechar from before. You have from Elul. You have it in another room. You're still allowed to be marim to kind of trick the system. V'shoisem in a chodosh, and drink from the new one. Meaning, you can say, listen, I want to drink from what? I want new shechar. I have shechar. I want now to make shechar for now, right? And I'll drink from the new one. And really, later on, I will keep using that new one. So what do you see? You see over there that I am allowed to do haroma without proving anything. In other words, without, no hoichocho. There's no way to, in other words, over here, according to Rav Kahana, you can only do the haroma if there's a hoichocho, meaning I can do haroma and place the Mishameres on top for the Shmorim. That's in the back of my mind. As long as everybody sees on the outside a proof, a chocha, that really the first usage is for Rimonim. So I tell everybody, Rimonim. And I really have to play the game and show and tell, put Rimonim there. Only then, afterwards, I'll be able to do the Shmorim. Here in Chol HaMoed, we didn't see that. You see, you're allowed to make a whole new batch of Sheikhel, right? Drink from the new one, and continue drinking throughout the winter. And there's no proof over there that it does look, it's a big amount. It's a big amount, l'choira. Everybody can see that I'm using such a huge amount for the rest of the winter, the rest of the time. And nobody says you have to do anything extra. And says the Gemara, it's not the same. Why? Hasam loy muchach hamilsa, which means over there, it's not muchacha. Not everybody knows that they have more of the real shechar in the back room. Over there, it's not like I have old shechar in front of my face and everybody knows, and it's very glaring that I'm making more shechar after I have a whole batch of shechar already. So not everybody. So that's not the case. No, it's in a closed room. Not everybody knows I have old shechar. So if you just come to my dining room when I'm playing the game and acting the act, what do you see? You see me making shechar big amount. So what? But I'm drinking it right now. People don't know that I have the old one, and therefore it's not muchach. Halcha muchach hamilsa. But over here, if a person takes a misanenes, he stretches it all over the chovis, making it nice. And the first thing you do is what? Shrach. You put inside the shmorim. Bad news. You can tell the whole world, Rimoni, but you have shmorim. So muchach hamilsa, again, you're not tricking well enough. You don't know how to trick. And therefore, what do you have to do? First, put Rimonim. So look as if the first reaction to the Misanenis are the Rimonim. That's okay. That's not Uvda D'chol. Later on, at some stage, you put the Shmorim and really use it for Borer, which is allowed in Yom Tov. That's why it's not Uvda D'chol. Omal Rabban and Ravashi. So now Rav Kahana came out good. Amru leRabban and Ravashi. Rabbana told Ravashi, what's Ravashi? It's the same Ravashi, which we can see over here, was a little bit, reluctant to allow haroma in every shape and form, right? You can do haroma, but you have to be careful that it really should not look like you're doing avera. Like you have to put rimonim before the actual usage of the borer on Yom Tov. Amal Rabbanan Ravashi. Chazimah, look, Rabbanon told Ravashi, look, there is a high tzuva merabbanon, there is a Talmid Chacham, a young Talmid Chacham, the Ravuna Barab Chion Shmei, the Amrila, some say Ravuna Barab Chilovon Shmei, they even said the name, and they're saying, Lashon Hara Letoelis, maybe you have to rebuke that guy, you have to give to Chacham. Look what this young Talmid Chacham is doing. You know what he's doing? Terrible things. The Shokal Bara de Tuma, he takes a clove of garlic, yeah, one tooth, one clove of garlic, Umanach bebarza dedana, and he puts it in the hole of the chovis, the hole, the little, hole for the spigot in the chovis. The chovis, not even spigot, the chovis, the barrel has a hole, and he stuffs it, he caulks it with the garlic, yeah, what's the real business here? He's doing bona or makeh bepatish. He's filling the hole of the chovis. The Omar, but he says to everybody, Beharoma, la'atznuya kamichavna. All I'm trying to do is metzniya. I'm trying to put my. I didn't find any any better place for my garlic. Just over there. That's where I like to store my garlic. In other words, he's playing haroma here, not in a very good way, right? He's telling everybody a story that this shum, that tuma, that piece of garlic, he just likes to store the garlic, happens to be in the wine barrel, and he puts it there to be marim on the fact that he's over probably Nisa Doraisa, so we think of Makri Patish. Another haroma done by the same Rav Huna, Bar Chiyun. What was this? What was the other thing he did? The Ozil V'naim b'Mavra, he would go to the Mavras like a boat, like a ferry, like a small boat, yeah, that goes from one bank of the river to the other bank of the river. He goes and he sleeps there. He goes to sleep there. The over lach gisa, and in other words, a goy, yeah, a Gentile, actually sails him. Captain Mackenzie sails him from one side of the boat to the other. Right? The Talmid Chacham, was asleep already in the boat from before, and he now goes to the other side of the river, V'sayer Peri, and he goes and he looks at his business over there. He looks at the payers that he has on the other side of the river without doing anything, just looking to see that business is okay, that everything grows nicely. The Omar, and he says, I know, what do you want from me? All I did was going to sleep. I was just sleeping in the boat. Yeah, row your boat. Sleep in the boat. Yeah, and what? Then he says, I'm mechaven to sleep. Oh, Mackenzie happens to take me from one side of the Pratis, came from Shemaim. Malach Elokim, boom, all of a sudden, I'm the other side of the. It happens to be that this is where my business is. Yeah? So, L'choira, that doesn't stem nice. Why? He's over an Isser, at least the Rabbanon of what? Amir al-Anochi. Of course, he coordinated with Tim the sailor beforehand. Mm. And this is Amir al-Anochi. So what's the problem going in the boat? It's a problem. It says the Daf Yutes Amud, what did we see? You're not allowed to go on a boat on Shabbos. If you're in a cruise and you are in the boat from before, you're allowed to stay on the boat. Yeah, if the guy does it for everybody else, not just for you. But here it's done especially for him. And it's also to go on a boat on Shabbos. Yeah, and he gets off the boat. So what's going on? It's within the Tchum, though. Tosis points out to Daf Yutes. There's no problem with Tchumin. It's just one side of the river to the other. Yeah? In any event, you, Rav Kahana, we're asking you to tell this guy off. That's what they explain it in the Bersifta here, so it makes sense. Now that you, Rav Kahana, I'm putting two and two together, Rav Kahana was anti-Haroma, unless you do it in a very, very specific way, like the Rimoinim Shmorim. This man is doing Haroma in a rather blatant way. Omalu. Surprisingly, Rav Kahana backed that Talmid Chacham and endorsed him. Haroma Kamart. You are dealing with harama. That's your issue. That is doing harama not in such a good way. Harama b'derabonon he. Both cases are not doraisa, but rather derabonon. That's number one. And soon I'm going to explain why. Because he's a Talmid Chacham, I trust him not to do it in a way that's non-harama, which means the reason why harama is a problem is today do it by harama, today he'll do it outright. If you put the shmorim, you're going to do it in a bad way, right? If you do aroma, tomorrow you're going to do it straight with the shmorim without even saying I'm doing it for Rimonim. You always have to have a stopgap between you and the real Maisa. So when you do aroma and you're not a Talmid Chacham, we're concerned that you're going to do it in a lechatchila, in your face way that's osur. Yeah, that's why haroma don't like. This man is a Talmid Chochem. Dafka, because he's a Talmid Chochem, I trust him not to break even a Darabanan. First of all, the Isurim, even if he would break the Isur straight away, it's just an Isur Darabanan. Why is it an Isur Darabanan with the garlic? Mele, to tell a goy to go on a boat, it's all Darabanan. But when it comes to the Shum, says Ritva, three reasons. I'll tell you two that I remember clearly. The Ritva, so today again, the Ritva says, first of all, it's not normal to put garlic as a building block for your chovis. Secondly, a garlic is something you like to eat, right? And you're going to take it out. You're not mivatel sham. You're not going to leave it there for good. So because it's crazy and also temporary, these are two very, very good facts to say, yeah, Melech Shabbos b'shinui is mutar m'doraisa. Melech Shabbos temporary, yeah, I'm going to take it out. It's very, very temporary. It's also mutar m'doraisa. Also with the Rabbanon, it's only the Rabbanon, and the Menez Talmid Chacham, I trust him, and I am actually endorsing what he's saying, and don't snitch on him, and he's doing good. I was surprised to see this Gemara, because sometimes we say the other way around, right? In Daf Nun Aleph Amud Aleph, we saw Dafka a case in which we say Adam Choshuv, people may come to learn from. So maybe Dafka, because it's Talmid Chacham, expect more of him. The Ritva doesn't answer my question, but the Ritva does say something interesting, a bit of a length. The maskon of the Ritva is he can't be medame one case of aroma to the other. Every aroma depends on the time, place, circumstances. Each one is different, right? So sometimes we're more machmer Talmid Chacham, sometimes more mekel, and sometimes there's in between. There's another difference. Over there we spoke about Adam Choshuv or Rosh Yeshiva. Everyone learns from him. This is more like a young koilel guy. He's not such an example for the whole world. That's another difference. But the Ritva says, don't learn from one stugi of aroma to the other. Aroma is a very flexible, dynamic issue, and therefore aroma, what's good in one place doesn't work in the other. That's basically what the Ritva says. Ask your rabbi before you want to do aroma. That's basically the story.
What's in the middle? What's called in the middle?
What do you mean?
You see, one case is in the middle. Aroma can be in the middle.
Yeah, sometimes you don't allow to anybody. Sometimes you allow to everybody. Sometimes you allow it only to Talmid Chacham and not to others. Yeah, and sometimes you're more machmir on a big Talmid Chacham. Yeah, different cases.
Another question. Somebody's allowed to do it.
Let's just retell the story. If you're going by Pierre, by you know what I mean, yeah, by wharf, whatever, and now there are boats anchored there. If you just go and sit in the boat, I don't think there's an issue. No, there isn't. As long as the boat's going to stay there anchored, it's fine. Why not? What's the problem? If it stays there. Elamai, this Choshev Arov, this Rav Huna Bar Chiyun, he knew that the goy will take it anyway to the other side. That was the issue. So he is actually going to sleep in the boat, sleeping there soundly. That alone is not a problem. Had the boat stayed there, it's not a problem on Shabbos, no.
Okay.
The only problem on Shabbos, is only to go outside the tchum. That's why you cannot leave a boat if you're on a cruise on Shabbos. It's halacha. For people who go on cruises, they know that on Shabbos you can't leave the boat. You should stay there. So now what happens with, in this case, he knew that the guy will take the boat, and that's a problem, right? You going, and that is a problem. To sail in the boat on Shabbos is a problem, yes. Even through a going. That you're not allowed. Yeah, very good with the kevish. Yeah, that's true. Very, very nice. They use the kevish on Shabbos, very nice. In Daf Kuf Mem, I think. Very good. In Achnam, you have to say they didn't leave the tchum, or it was, you must say there, either the boat was anchored there before Shabbos, yeah, they didn't come from outside the tchum, or they were only going off to the boat within 2,000 amas. One of the two, but you can't go and make a distance 2,000 amas on Shabbos, either by boat or by foot.
We didn't have those facts, that's why I was asking the question.
Okay, no, your question was very legitimate question, so I answered.
Yeah.
Next Mishnah, more about borer. The main sugi of borer we saw in Daf Ein Daled Amud Aleph. Here we have more issues of borer and also ohel. Case number 1. Noisnin mayim al gav shmor b'shvil shitzoylu. Now, what happens with the sediments are just the sediments now. All the wine already trickled down. That was in the first Mishnah. Now you want to kvetch them even more. You're a real opportunist. You're not going to waste one drop. You put water on the shmorim, right? Bishvil shitzoylu, itzol means two things. What does itzol mean? They'll get clearer, and also tzolel. They will dive deep. Right? You put the water on the shmorim, and the water together, now the water schleps with it the little bit of wine that's within the shmorim. And that you're allowed to do. That apparently is not an issue of boirer. Yeah, there's no issue of boirer here. The mayim al gav shmorim is not something significant, as we're going to see a similar case in the Gemara. Yeah, on Shabbos, if the mishameres was there before, yeah, and that is okay. Umesanin in the sayayin besudorin ubekfifa mitzris. What's mesanin in sayayin? You have wine, no sediments, wine, regular wine. You're allowed to run the wine through sudorin, through a cloth, clean cloth, or ubekfifa mitzris. Kfifa mitzris is basically like a basket, and that wine you're allowed to be mesanin. Two issues. Issue number one: why are you allowed to be mesanin wine? Yeah, we'll discuss the fact the wine has a little bit of white, gooey things looks like flour. But if some people would drink it anyways, or you, your family, whatever, you would drink the wine this way. You want to give it extra filtering, extra cleaning, because you would have drunk it anyways. It's okay. Second topic, sudorin. Why did we speak about mayim al gav shmorim and yain besudorin? It's meduyak, yain, you can pour on the suda, which is made out of cloth. Masha'enken water, you can't. Why? Because if you have water, and the water, you run water, you have water, and you choshish from bugs, you live in New York, right? Or stam, the water is not so clean. You want to run the water like on Pesach, on the mesanen, through the cloth. It's a problem. Why? Because it's going to clean it. Even if it doesn't clean it, to wet something, make something wet, is also on Shabbos with water. Only with wine it's allowed, because by red wine there's no issue of making it clean, of washing. You can't wash. It's a toldo melabin. You can't take water and pour water on cloth, even if you have no kavana to clean it. Right? Mashenkin wine makes it dirty, so it's okay. Another issue of sudorin is what? Sudar, you may come to squeeze. Maybe it's also because you may come to squeeze the wine out of the sudar. They say, no, there's no such issue. You know why? This sudar is meant for it. You won't even squeeze out the wine. You do it all the time. There's no point of squeezing the wine from the sudar to make it cleaner. It's basically like tidying up the room of a teenager. Yeah, it's like a... It's as if it can. It's like, well, what are you doing it for? Yeah, it's going to get messy in half a second. Yeah, it's the same thing. The yain b'sudorin have no interest of squeezing or wringing it out. 1 second. Why? Because the yain b'sudorin, and it's going to get all wined out and dirty again. But kfifa mitzvah is the same thing. There are more issues, but that's what we're going to do for now. Yes.
I was going to ask about Tzvaya in terms of like of dyeing. You know, let's say it was white and you're using red wine.
Derech lichluch. You're not making it nice. It's not a nice design. It's a fich.
Okay.
There is machlokes achronim about white wine. Do you say white wine is a quarter, or do you say it's a red wine? V'noisnin beitza. Oh, that's a famous case. Oh, in Boirer. V'noisnin beitza b'masanenet shel chardal. Now, what does that mean? You're allowed to put raw egg and run it through a masanenet, a sieve or a sifter meant for mustard. What on earth does that mean? This is a huge issue. I'll just, Baruch Hashem, I got the clarity here. I learned it many times, but this time I think I have it clear. The story is like this. Let's say you have a beitza. The beitza has, as you know, the yolk and the white part, right? You are now making chardal. Now, chardal is not the mustard you kvetch at home, the yellow one. It's similar, but the one that has the sediments in it, yeah? The grains, yeah? You're making some kind of mustard paste, and you mesanin. You take the chardal, the grains of the chardal, the little grains, you run them through the mesanenes. That you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. That's borer, right? But there's another thing you're adding to the chardal. As you're making the chardal, you want to give it extra color. This is, by the way, one of the sources that in most cases you are allowed to add color to food. As opposed to Mishnah Berurah and Bishul, the main Mishnah Berurah says you're allowed to color food unless you're a professional caterer. Mesanenes shel chardal, you take the egg, the yellow strong color yolk, which is a color agent of olden times, before food colorings were around, Baruch Hashem, and that goes through with the chardal and gives very nice color to the chardal underneath in the plate that's under the sifter. That's good. What happens to the white part? It stays on top. You give me one good reason. Why is that allowed? Isn't that borer? You're taking the yellow, separating the yellow from the white in such a cruel way. With what? With the mesanenes. Why is that allowed? I'll cut a long story short and I'll tell you as follows. First of all, you're separating food from food. In other words, you're taking the yellow from the white one you're also going to eat. You'll use it later for some other foods. Everyone's going to tell me, Mapitom, you're not allowed to separate food from food. That's halacha. I mean, according to most people, machlokes rishonim. But nowadays we hold, Mishnah says, not allowed to separate knives from forks, right? You can't take all mixture of knives and forks and knives, forks. You can't create two. So first of all, it's machlokes rishonim, and Rashi holds it is okay. That's first of all.
Who holds?
Rashi. We don't hold of that la'alocha, but Rashi holds you're allowed to separate good from good, and that's what Rashi says over here. So life is beautiful. You're allowed to take the yellow from the white because both are food, and you'll use them both. This is food coloring underneath, and the one that stays on top is also food. Yeah, you can use it afterwards for something else. Now, what will the mainstream? What about misanenes? Not allowed to use professional kli. That's why it says not the one of the egg. Get it? For the egg, misanenes shel chardal is not a professional kli. It's not the kind of kli you're supposed to use for eggs. You don't use chardal sieve for eggs. It's like using a meat knife for potatoes. It's not the same thing. Now, however, what will we say? We don't have like Rashi. How come you're allowed to separate food from food? Bingo. Say a lot of Rishon. Remember already who says what, but that's a maskono. And that is as follows. When you take that chardal, it's also mashma in Rashi in a different place. That yellow, what's going to happen to that yellow yolk when it goes down? What's the whole purpose of it? Are you going to eat it? Yeah. But really the main idea is just to be completely tofel to the chardal. It gets mixed up straight away, and it's just used as a very secondary thing of the chardal. Yeah, there's a sugyan b'vakama. Is color considered an entity or not? Yeah, let's say this is colored in blue. Is blue and the card two? It's one. Therefore, what's the problem of borer? We just learned the sugya recently in yeshiva. Borer means I created two from one big mess. I created two piles, knives, and forks. But lemaisa, if the yellow becomes straight away secondary to the chardal as color, it's garnished. So I separated garnished from something. That's not called separation. I didn't make a chosh of a thing and another chosh of a thing. I took the yellow, boom, it's in the chardal, straight away being mixed, just serving as a color to the chardal. I don't care about it as of itself. Therefore, it's not called even oichel moichel. It's called nothing secondary tofel from oichel. That's not called boirer. That's a chiddush. Makes a lot of sense if you know the sugya boirer. As I tried to give you time, that's the story here. The oisin anomalin b'Shabbos. Anomalin is anomaly. I'm joking. Anomalin is a kind of potion. Rashi says potion, and it's good for you. It's healthy for you. And what is it? It's the mixture of wine, honey, and pepper. And it sounds very nice. Anomalin on Shabbos you're allowed to make. What's the chiddush allowed to make anomalin on Shabbos and mix them? Says it Tiferes Soil. Mixing them right is a bit of a tircha. You have to know how to do it. And usually it stays for a long time. So if it stays for a long time, one would argue, and soon we'll see people who do argue, that you're not allowed to make the anomalin, because normally the normal way of doing the anomalin is to make a big amount, and usually it stays after Shabbos, so it smells like you're preparing something from Shabbos to Chol. However, Tanakama says it's allowed. If my kavanah is not for Chol, I'm doing that normally, you're allowed to do something on Shabbos which may stay for later. That's okay. However, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, no, the Shabbos because. So Rabbi Yehuda says, no, let's put some limitations here, says Rabbi Yehuda. If you do it on Shabbos, make it in a cup, a small glass. Don't make a big amount. B'Yom Tov B'Lagin, Yom Tov you're allowed to make it in a bigger jug. B'Moed B'Chovis, and Chalamoed, which is even more kal, you're allowed to make it in a big barrel because it's more kal. Rabbi Tzadok Omer Kol Lefi Orchin. Rabbi Tzadok says, no, he doesn't agree with Tanakama and not with Rabbi Yehuda. He says, depends how many orchin you have. Let's say you're hosting 5 people for Shabbos. Make a anomalin for 5 people. You have 20 people. Make for 20 people. The Shenkin Tanakama says, no, I don't believe this is a problem that you don't have to limit the amount. And anomalin normally is not chilul Shabbos. It's not a problem. And therefore, even if something will stay for after Shabbos, nish gefelach. Oh, this is the Gemara we're going to see now is very nogea to most of us in this room. Most people in this country use filtered water, including Shabbos, right? You have a what it's called in nice crisp Hebrew, mini bar. The mini bar is what? It's, or any other filters you have at home. You filter the water. How come you're allowed to filter the water in Shabbos? Question. Amar Zeri. Noisen odem yain solul, umayim tzlulin letoch hashmeres b'Shabbos ve'en choshesh. If you have wine that's already solul, obviously it's not 100% solul, but it's rather clear and pure. And water that's clear and pure into meshameres to give it an extra, yeah. Rashi says kmochim. It has a little bit of white, little gooky things here and there, but it's more or less solul. It doesn't have shmorim. If it's more or less solul, you can put them into meshameres through the meshameres, but not through the cloth. If it's water, right? No problem. If they're really murky, if they're cloudy, murky, not allowed because that's real boril, right? A brisa to reject or to challenge that. A person is allowed to be toired to mix. You have wine. In the bottom of the barrel, there are shmorim. You're allowed to mix them all, whisk them all. Oh, what's going on here? You see that you're allowed to even separate wine from sediments. Before it was said only if it's clear. It has a bit of picky things here and there, still okay. As long as you don't have shmorim, you're okay. But the Bryce of Rishbag said even with shmorim, it's okay. How come it's not bar with the shmorim? Answers the Gemara, and that's going to be the answer for our water system. Tirgam Aziri, Benagitos Shanu. What's Benagitos Shanu? Benagitos means Benagitos means between the wine presses, meaning in the middle of the process. When you make wine, it's a whole long process. Let's say you are a worker in the gat, in the wine press, in the wine factory. It's very normal to drink the wine with the shmorim. Even if you don't swallow them, you drink it with the shmorim. Why? Because that's how everybody in the factory drinks. Because it's not a made product yet. It's not a finished product yet. Oh, so in a place where people don't care, they don't care about the wine with the shmorim. They prefer, of course, not to have the shmorim. That's why they're doing the border. It's not the end of the world. It's very normal for them, for the whole matzah, the place, time, for people to drink it even with the shmorim. So even if you separate, it's okay. Because for you, it's not the end of the world. So it's not called borer, because it's not called real psoilus for you. It's not enough of a psoilus for you. And when the production line is over, when the wine is ready, fancy wine for Purim, 1,000 shekels a bottle, and now there's no shmorim whatsoever, and you have some wine with shmorim, and you separate it, then of course you are chayev, or at least it's usher, because then it's considered as psoilus. In the setting of home, after you finish producing the wine, then of course it's considered to be a real borer. So that's a shayla about water. The assumption is when chachomim of nowadays, when today's poskim allow you to use the water filter on Shabbos, they assume that people wouldn't mind also drinking without the filter. I hope that's true. Otherwise, I don't know. Ask your local Orthodox American rabbi for this one. If you'd never ever touch water straight from the tap, I don't know. I don't know what would be the halacha. I'm not a poisek. I make a point of every once in a while drinking from the tap to prove to myself that. Okay, anyhow, I prefer mineral water on Shabbos. That's my Shabbos treat. Weiter, mesanin nisayan besudorin. Amar Rav Shimi Bachia bilvad shelo yase guma. Although you're allowed to sift and filter the wine through the cloth, you're not allowed to create a guma. Don't create like a cavity, like an indentation in the fabric. Why not? For two reasons. First of all, uvda dechol. What's uvda dechol? Two words. Too professional. If you do something on Shabbos, it's allowed. Or Yom Tov, you do it in a way that's too good, because when you create that cavity there, that indentation, it's much better. It's more professional. The more professional in Shabbos, the worse. Be a professional 6 days a week, not on Shabbos. The other reason is, says Rashi, osil de schita. I'm not sure why technically that is so, but if you have that indentation, you may come to squeeze it, yes. Maybe you want to keep it nicer, better. I don't know. You may come to, there's more of a chashash. Ubekfifa mitzris, one more. I'd like to do more. We'll see how much we can get. Bekfifa mitzris. That kfifa mitzris, you're allowed to, you're allowed to filter the wine through a basket, something that's made out of a lot of reeds, like a mat, as long as you don't have between the bottom of the barrel and the actual thing, the actual sifter, don't have a tefach, because then that would be oil. You can't make an oil on Shabbos, right? Omarav, okay, maybe I'll just give the introduction now, because the rest we'll do when? On Sunday. Yeah? Are you guys up to Motzei Shabbos, by the way? Anybody? No. Motzei Shabbos would be a bit difficult. Purim, Motzei Shalayim. Yeah, anyhow. Motzei Shabbos, you're off. No. See you on Sunday. Let's just start the new topic, and I'll leave you with a cliffhanger. Omarav. Hi, Parvanka. Parvanka is actually a piece of cloth that's meant for sifting. A palge de kuva shari, a kule kuva also. To put it halfway through, to drape it and place it, spread it on part of the kli is allowed, but to completely cover the kli with it is not allowed. So what would it say? What does that mean? The assumption of most Rishonim is, because it is ohel, if you completely cover the barrel with the fabric all through and through, that's ohel. If you only cover it halfway, it is not ohel. Many questions are asked on that. Rash Boritva, the people asked a few questions. First of all, mapitom. What are you talking about? How can you, if you believe that placing a thing over a kli, not over furniture where a person is sleeping, like you. Let me just give the introduction before the questions. We just entered a whole new world of oil here, a whole new chumrah. Up until now, oil was for me to live under, or even indoors for me to sleep under the fancy canopy as a choson or something. Here we're coming to a whole new business. This is a kli. There's wine inside. There's apples and oranges inside, and you tell me this applies to? It's a big chiddush. All applies to just kalim. Aren't you allowed to put any to cover your boxes on Shabbos? How machmir can you get? Also, my computer is dying. Atzlocha v'rocha. Thank you very much. B'chol inyanim. Thank you. Freiliche Purim.